So welcome to the Man the Fuck Up podcast. I am Kimmy B.
I'm Lenny.
And today, Len, we have got some very special guests with us, two fabulous boss-ass females. We've got Stella B, and then we've got Chelsea Davenport. Welcome, ladies.
Hello, hello.
Thank you. Hi.
So excited to have you. These are like our first like female guests. I'm very excited because,
I think they're our first guest overall.
yeah, I mean, they're just, I guess I'm excited because I'm usually surrounded by so much like,
Testosterone.
yes, so much testosterone and male energy. So it's nice to have a couple of boss ladies here with us today. Now, Stella, we actually met at the Exotics on Las Olas car rally.
Right on.
And then we saw each other again at the big car show on Las Olas Boulevard.
Right.
And it was just like an instant connection and vibe. Lenny and I wanted you to come in to talk all things cars and obviously manning the fuck up.
Yeah.
But then we found out that you work with this incredible woman, Chelsea Davenport, with a nonprofit organization. Chelsea, I'm going to let you kind of give us a little backstory. It's Healthy Hire, Healthy Retire, yes?
Yes, that's right. Yes. So the organization is a first responder organization focused on providing better preventive health care, both mentally and physically, for the first responders population in Florida. So we're going to be doing a lot to work on making improvements there. We already got the ball rolling, so hopefully everything works out and we can get some changes made.
I love it. I mean, Lenny, that was one of the things we were actually talking about when we met Stella at the Exotics on Las Olas, because Wounded Warrior was out there, and they were just kind of talking about some of the needs not being met for our veterans.
Yeah, I think it's crazy in today's day and age that this country is so full of wealth and programs aren't in place for the people who look out for our.
You know what I'm saying?
It's this country needs a man to fuck up.
Yes, it does. I was like, if this doesn't fit under the umbrella of manning the fuck up, I don't know what does. And that was one of the things, you know, that we wanted to make sure that we did with this podcast was highlight first responders, highlight our vets, the folks who literally man the fuck up on a daily basis for people that they've never met a day in their life, to protect our freedom so that I can actually sit here on this microphone and say things like man the fuck up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you know what I'm
So,
saying?
Chelsea, the program that you're doing, can you tell us a little more about what it provides for the actual firefighters and first responders?
Yeah, so I've been working with the first responder population for going on 7 years. Now, I come from a first responder and veteran family, but
So you got USAA.
I don't.
But you're eligible.
Probably. So, yeah, I've got a lot of family members that are in the military. My brother was a firefighter and a chaplain for his fire department. And even still, I didn't really understand growing up the ultimate sacrifice, all of the things that they sacrifice to do their job, the effects that it has on them, both physically and mentally, until about 7 years ago, when I got introduced to someone who actually had a crisis hotline for first responders. And they started giving me all of these statistics and telling me about all of these things, all the gaps that are there. And my jaw dropped to the floor, because in my mind, even though I have these people around me, I thought first responders, they get the best health care.
You would think.
And that is far, far from the truth. And what I found out, like I said, in the past amount of time that I've been working with the community, I've gone to different departments all over the country, and it's the same story over and over again. The stigma is very heavy when it comes to talking about anything that might be wrong with you.
Yeah. And, I mean, you got to look at the military. These guys go to war. They come back, the PTSD. Our first responders see that on a daily basis. It might not be from war, but they see it.
Yeah.
And they have to deal with it. And they do it for 20 years running.
Right.
Every day. So
a perfect, I think, example that a lot of folks got to witness firsthand here in South Florida recently, I think, was the collapse of Champlain Towers.
yeah.
And that was the first time, I'm going to be very honest, that the news was talking about it, that our city officials were talking about making sure we were providing these men and women who were boots on the ground 12 hours a shift, sleeping on site with proper mental health resources, right? Like that was the first time I've ever heard them really make it a point to discuss that we're making sure that there are people on site that these men and women can talk to if it gets too difficult for them. Like there was a firefighter, we were discussing it, before we started officially talking, that found his daughter in the rubble. Like
your worst nightmare.
Can you imagine? And then these are your brothers and sisters that you work with every day, that you put your lives on the line for one another, running into burning buildings or whatever the case may be. They know her too, right? And they have to take a moment, grieve, and then do what?
Keep going.
Keep going. Back in there.
Don't stop.
And keep going. You know what I'm saying? Like you get chills just thinking about it, and it's emotional.
Yeah.
But, to your point, Chelsea, there's that stigma, and we have to do our part as a community to help break that down. Like we talk about it here in the office all the time. Therapy is manning the fuck up.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Seeking out help, seeking out
communication.
The conversation with somebody else is manning the fuck up, because you can't do your job at a certain point with all of that, I would imagine, weighing down on you.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we talk about it's like having a bucket and you just keep putting sand in it and keep putting sand in it, and eventually it overflows. And so that's how we look at a lot, like with the first responders, is eventually it's going to overflow. And that's why some of these statistics that people aren't so aware of, we try to get out there more about, the health issues that they face. The average life expectancy of a police officer is only 57.
That's wild.
And a lot of people don't know that. Yeah. And that can be addressed. We can do things that we're not doing currently to prevent things like that. But heart disease, suicide, they're 10 times more likely to attempt suicide than the general population, because they don't have that, like you were saying, outlet for the communication like they should. There are departments that are getting better at things by adding programs like peer support programs that are really good, but there's still just a really long way to go. And, we got to perfect this craft now of getting it right.
Well, I have to ask you, Chelsea, because you grew up in it, Chelsea, how often did you have those conversations with the men and women in your family?
Never, which is why I didn't know it was like this.
Right.
And looking back now getting to sit and talk with first responders one-on-one and them actually opening up to me and telling me about things, I look back now and I see some of those signs. I see some situations and some behaviors and things like that I'm like, this is very much could be a result of, what they're keeping inside. So it
was the same thing in my household. Yeah. I'm sorry. Same thing in my household. I grew up in military, and my dad was Vietnam vet, airborne 173rd, experienced a lot. And from the culture, when they were received back home here in the States, they were not received back home. They were baby killers. They were this, they were that. They were just terrorized. So PTSD already existed, and then you multiply the lack of support that those Army and military people, period, came back home and did not get. And then having a father that was very much on point and disciplined, and this is how you do things, and respect, and you don't step out of line. It was always like that in my household. And fast forward, when I was in my 20s and started working on military bases, and then had a relationship with a Marine for a really long time. And then I started looking back and going, oh my God, this is so familiar. It's like my dad all over again. And talking to people on the bases and going, well, do you have this? Do you have that? Like, do you have to talk? We don't talk to people. We don't do this. No, they don't do that. We don't, we can't be seen as weak. And I thought, damn, if my dad only had something to come home to, his quality of life would have been so much different. The way I was raised would have been different as well. Thank God for my mother. Thank you to all the mothers out there that love your children and love your husbands, like without any question, to keep us sane and keep us going. So, there was definitely a godsent there for my father. But to Chelsea's point, like growing up, I didn't know any different until I was a young adult. And then recognizing that as a single white female, I cannot challenge the system or fight against it to create anything better for these people. So for maybe 15 years it's been, right, all that came together for me. So I'm in my 40s now, and I meet Chelsea, and then all of a sudden I'm like, boom, this is who I've been waiting for. Talking about angels, you know, she is a real life angel walking the earth, doing her thing as a civilian, fighting for this, being the voice for our first responders, who are a lot of times veterans, you know, big population of veterans. They don't have that process to transition out of that into civilian life. And let's just face it, what they do out there and how you do in here are two different things to do. So, So
I guess you could say that, you know, we manned the fuck up, because honestly, whenever I started finding out about all of those things, my first thought was like, what do you mean this stuff doesn't exist? Somebody should do something about it.
There you go.
And I was like, you know what? We don't have time. These are people's lives on the line. We don't have time to wait for somebody else. I have an idea, and I think it'll work. And so that's what we're going for.
So this is a good example of the middle, because whatever was started 20 years ago, we talked about with the sensitivity training, the things that were coming out, you know, and like I said before, the pussification of America. But there's good and bad with everything.
Yep.
So 20 years ago, this conversation wasn't had. Okay, right. It is now.
Yeah.
You know, I think part of the problem with that whole scenario is that, you know, Buffy's got her little puppy with her, and if she breaks a nail, she feels like she's as traumatized as a first responder. And that's not really, it's, do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
It is.
I mean, this is a good byproduct of that thing, that people are seeing this and it's there. And I mean, I've talked to people before about, you know, how fucked up I am.
If you don't know anybody in this space, though, you don't know what they're dealing with, right? Because unless you go through a situation like, I literally burnt my house down in the 8th grade, right? And I had to jump off my deck and all that, and the firefighters come, and they're there to, you know, I was home alone, and so they're there to literally pick you up and put you in the fire truck and wait for your parents. So that's the experience that I have now had with first responders, right? I can remember living in an apartment with my mom, and we got home one night and went to go open the door, and it was chain locked from the inside. So clearly somebody had scaled up and broken in through the sliding glass door. And I remember the cops flying through like the parking lot and me like yelling like, go get him, right? So when you have these positive interactions with first responders, with law enforcement, you grow up with an appreciation. But if you're blessed to never need these incredible men and women, you don't really understand what they go through. And because there's this culture of quiet, right? They're these silent heroes that don't talk about, don't brag about what they do or what they see day in and day out, right? Like
most of us wouldn't even be able to process it anyway.
Ever.
And most of them are not the bragging type. Actually, these guys, like, they want to do good. And I hate the villainization that they've received over the past few years. It really, really hurts, because, you know, part of the reason why I did this, I don't want to cry, but is because I had first responders come to my aid when I was younger and needed somebody, and they helped me out. And that's why I have such a passion for wanting to get back and making sure that they do have what they deserve, because they deserve better than this.
Yeah, this is a time that we're at right now where our country is confused. People are all over the place. They're not educated. There's a massive ignorance that's happening. It's like a dark cloud that's coming over our beautiful country, the land of the free, the home of the brave. We have all of that because of these individuals. They're out there crushing it for us, so we can go to the mall and the movies and drive our fast cars and go on, you know, to parties and hang out and be fabulous and selfie up on social media and do all this bogus stuff that doesn't really touch upon, like, in this way, where they can say thank you for keeping us safe from villains that destroy our country, that want to socialize and create communism and do things to take away our freedoms. And these are the men and the women in the front lines here that are doing that for us on a daily without even asking anything, getting probably paid the lowest in the valuation of time to effort and what it provides to a huge scale of people, not just like the 4 of us, but the country. And then globally, how we're connected all over the place, helping other countries. So it's mind blowing, the amount of strength and just conditioning that these men and women have as our first responders and our veterans to keep on keeping the fight, keep on keeping on, you know, fighting for us, fighting for themselves. And they need us.
100%.
And now more than ever.
Yeah.
I mean, these are times that, you know, 20 years ago, law enforcement didn't have to deal with the social media, everybody pulling their phones out, recording everything that they do, all the backlash and things like that. It's a whole new introduction of dynamics into policing now. And also, you know, the pressure on, you know, politics for them to not even really be able to do their jobs the way that they need to do their jobs. I mean, some of them aren't even going into neighborhoods to respond anymore because they're afraid to even get into an interaction because it might ruin their life.
Yeah, it's listen, these guys, firefighters, police, they could be far left, they could be far right. When they go to work, they're there to work. They don't care if the guy next to them voted for somebody here. No, there's no question about that. You know, the guys riding on the fire truck have 15 different beliefs. And you know what? You know what they believe when they're on the fire truck? That we're here to save people, and that's it.
Yeah.
I'm a firefighter, and that's it. And it's true, and that's, again, part of the backlash of social media and all of this stuff that we're being fed is, cops won't go pull somebody over. They won't stop a criminal because they're scared that they're going to get ostracized for doing the wrong thing.
Their job.
Yeah, for doing their job. I mean, you know, I wasn't the best kid, but, you know, the cops when I was growing up would stop you and talk to you and, you know, drag you home to your mother.
Like
or,
guardians.
you know, and they don't have that ability anymore. They don't have the ability anymore to scare the shit out of you, you know? And, I mean, I had an example, which luckily it happened on the reservation. My son did something stupid, a kid thing. Nothing dangerous, nothing, just a stupid kid thing. And they grabbed him, Seminole cops grabbed him, took him out of his car, and took him to the station and kept him there. And they called me, and they said, hey, this is what happened. I said, keep his fucking ass in the chair for about 5 hours, you know?
Let him
leave him handcuffed to the chair. I'll eventually get there.
Yeah.
And that is a lot of what our kids need.
But you know what else, though, too? Because, you know, I have to present the other side of this.
Wait a minute. That situation was two people, not just my son, but there was someone else in the car that got the same treatment, and it was good. They were good.
You're missing my point. What I'm saying is having that dialogue, though, and having a better understanding, like you said, of what people go through and why officers respond the way they respond in certain situations is also important. Understanding better what training they go through. There are things that need to change, right? Yes. Like, and I think any great member of the LEO community will tell you that, yes, there's an evolution that needs to happen. And yes, we have flaws. Like, we all have flaws. It doesn't matter what community you're a part of. Yeah. You have to own that there are people in it that make mistakes. And that's fine, because you have a majority of individuals, like we've discussed at length now, that are willing to sacrifice themselves for you. Yeah. They signed up. They took an oath to protect and serve, and they mean that every day when they put that uniform on and they leave their families at home who they may never come back and see again, right? So,
and the question is, like, leadership, right? Yeah. From the leadership standpoint, there are people at the top.
No, and we need
that need to be helping us out here. That need to be making moves to make changes.
They need to stand up to.
They need to man
their local governments. They need to stand up to their mayors. They need to stand up for. Look, we're here to do a job, and if your policies are hindering us from doing the job,
but they know that.
Yeah, but they need to stand up for it.
And no one is. That's why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah. And that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Amen, brother.
But I love what you said too, because you're like, nobody knows what calls that, you know, they're going on, and that's why they're reacting on your call, maybe in a way that you don't understand. What I think we should be giving them some grace because of some of the calls that they go on that involve maybe children, things like that. They have to go and see a horrific scene, and what a lot of people don't realize is they go to the next call. They don't get to go back to the department,
and process and decompress.
take the rest of the day off. They go and they see something absolutely, horrific.
Yeah.
And then have to go and deal with somebody who's mad that, somebody didn't pull out of a parking spot, the way they wanted them to, or you know what I mean? Like stupid
But
stuff.
wouldn't you also say that it's important to have these conversations? Because at this point, the good ones aren't going to even want to be cops.
That is happening. No,
so
that
if we
is
don't
happening.
keep having these conversations, and not only that, if we continue to vilify en masse, the communities that feel that they are not fairly policed will not have any representation. Because if you grow up thinking that these are the bad guys, nobody wants to go out and be the bad guy, right? So when we talk about representation being key, we need, men and women of color to want to put on the blue. We need them to want to protect and serve in their own communities.
Man the fuck up and be the change.
You know what I'm saying?
Be the change you want to see.
So if we don't have the conversation, if we don't have the dialogue, and then on top of that, the stress, the pay.
Oh yeah.
They're overworked. They're not getting, they don't have the resources. It's all connected. So when you're talking about the things that you're trying to provide them with, you don't think that's going to make them better officers, better first responders if they have mental health,
How about just better
resources?
Humans, happier humans?
Well, no, but that makes you better at your job.
Exactly. And that was the whole sort of, from the beginning to end, what we are trying to vocalize that we want to accomplish, because yes, we want their mental health to improve. We want to be preventive about it. We want their physical health to improve. Be able to mitigate the effects of the stress on their bodies. But as you have happier, healthier first responders out there on duty, your community interactions will improve. The amount of money budget-wise that's spending on health issues. A heart attack for a department would cost about $450,000 to $700,000, just one person having a heart attack.
Right.
And now heart attacks are one of the most common things that affect first responders.
Stress, lack of sleep, all of it.
Like one of our board members, such a great guy. He is 31 years old. He was a combat veteran. Now he's with the sheriff's department. He's 31 years old. He's had 2 heart attacks.
Unbelievable.
That's wild.
I mean, it's nuts. And they did the test on him, and it's stress related.
Of course.
And guess what? Now the VA and his insurance are fighting over whose responsibility
Who's going to pay for that?
Just pay.
Yeah.
Fuck up and pay for this man's health care. This is ridiculous.
This is part of that's part of a serious problem.
That shouldn't even be a question. They should be fighting over who has the privilege of paying for this man's health care.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wild.
Yeah,
Okay, now I'm gonna
health. You
Put a seatbelt on.
You don't want to get me started on healthcare in this country, but
No.
healthcare in this country is horrible for everybody, and it's because it's about money. It's not about people's health. It's about money. There's no money in making people better.
No, because I'm sure now he's on medication that he'll be paying for the rest of his life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, somebody will be paying for it. It's just, it's for me, I know that when I was growing up, police, firemen were available. Yeah. You could ride up to a fire station and get air in your tire.
Aww.
You could, and I grew up here. I grew up in South Florida.
Dang, the fire station by my house I went over to the other day, we had a function and I had all this leftover food and I'm like, I'm going to give it to the fire department by my house. It was the first time I went there. I've driven by there 6 years, right? Went in there and it's like a barricade. And you hit a ringer that sounds like a big buzzer on the other side and some dude comes down. He's like, can I help you? Like through a little door. I'm like, I have food and it's not poisonous. Now I'm starting to feel like I shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
My kindness. And he was like, well, we were not allowed to accept it. And
They're not allowed to accept food because they don't know if somebody's trying to hurt them.
Isn't that crazy? And he was like, thank you so much. I'm like, but I just dropped the other half off at the kitchen down the street.
Oh my God. There are police officers that won't even tell people they're police officers anymore. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they won't go into places to buy food in their uniforms because they're afraid that somebody's going to put something in it.
It's, and this is, again, social media. This is
This
is being spoon-fed information based on what you're searching at Best Buy.
Personal
basically.
opinion. Yeah.
It's profiling. And listen, we're in one of my companies is, an internet marketing company. So, I'm familiar with what's available on people. I'm familiar with being able to send an ad to one person specifically. So when you get all of this stuff out there that's just negative and
Or
they're feeding it,
garbage.
and there's no one saying, hey, you know, that's not necessarily the only thing that they're doing, you know? I mean, there's bad apples in every bunch. We know that.
Well,
you
it's
know,
also perspective and how things are portrayed.
of course.
And the position that things come in at, you know, you can say things 3 different ways and you're going
Absolutely.
to take them 3 different ways, right?
Yep.
So there's so many dynamics and variables on what's happening in our world today.
Typically, the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's somewhere in the middle. I mean, you get an extreme opinion from this person, you get an extreme opinion from this person. They could be standing next to each other at the scene and see 2 different things.
Absolutely.
2 different things. It's, you know, it's
And whichever perception's the more exciting, that's what they'll run with.
yeah,
You know,
it's
doesn't
filtered.
matter whether it's
Everything we hear is filtered.
Can I
through
talk about
the mouth.
something exciting? In March.
Oh, I
Homestead
thought you were going to talk about
Speedway.
me.
Well, I wanted to save that for the end.
Oh,
But in March, I just wanted to bring up that we're going to be doing because I love cars, so I just clicked in my head. We're going to be doing an event in Homestead Speedway, Horsepower for Heroes.
I love that.
It's going to be so dope, dude, and we're going to have some pretty amazing people we're collaborating with, and it's going to be ride-alongs for first responders and veterans. And I don't want to give away too much, but it is months out. It'll be 2022, if you can believe it, end of March 2022. So I just wanted to throw that out there for whoever hears this and wants to come out and help.
that's great.
Support our cause. You can check us out.
Let me know how many people are going to be out there, and we will send all the first responders hats and
awesome.
products.
That would be
Yeah.
great. Well, it's gonna be a pretty big kind of like, you know, Homestead Speedway is a huge facility. So
I think a lot of people will come out and support
Yeah.
too. And big, actually, with that being said, shout out to the chief of police down in Homestead,
Yeah.
Mr. Al Roll. He's a personal friend, so he's
Awesome.
absolutely incredible.
Okay.
And you know, again, it's just you never. It's perspective and it's experience and it's interaction, and hopefully, you know, with Healthy Hire, Healthy Retire, you'll be able to maybe create some opportunities like, you know, Horsepower for Heroes, where the community can come out and engage and interact with these incredible men and women, and not just show their support, but, you know, get a chance to maybe have a little bit of dialogue and conversation. There's nothing like actually meeting somebody and putting a face with a badge or a face with the uniform and getting that moment to spend some time. And you'd be amazed at how much it can, I don't want to say dilute what you see on social media, but the more positive interactions we just have as a community together. And with, like, to your point, Lenny, there was a time when little kids, that was one of the top 5 things you wanted to be, right? What do you want to be when you grow up? Policeman, policewoman, firefighter, astronaut, you know, mailman, mailwoman, whatever, right? You wanted to have these quintessentially American blue collar, you know, these jobs that just, you know, you were a good person, and we did get away from that, and it's sad.
You know, and kids look up to them as heroes.
They are.
They are. And so, you know, that, I mean, it's no surprise that that's what they want to be, and you still hear that, but then you get older, and I know my stepbrother.
No, we hear influencer, YouTube star, and it's like, you just want to kick them in the head.
We need some influencers, some stars out there for our stars in that protect and serve us
For
out
sure.
there,
Uniform,
right?
yeah.
For sure. But we can't change what we see on social media right now, but you ladies are definitely taking the proverbial man the fuck up bull by the horns.
Yeah,
and being the change. So we appreciate you for that. And I just want to say thank you to your family members. Thank you to you for your service, for your time, because it's not easy on the loved ones of these incredible heroes either. You know, you guys make a sacrifice every day as well, as a wife, as a child, when you know, let mom or dad go out into the streets to do their job, or you send them off, you know, to war, or whatever the case may be. So it's definitely a collective effort, and you guys also need the support, you know, and it's important that we continue to have these conversations and provide spaces like this. So.
Yeah, and I also want to give a shout out to all the dispatchers and the EMS workers out there. I know when we talk about first responders, you know, there's a heavy focus on law enforcement and on fire, but the dispatchers, you know, they're the actual first responder.
And they talk you through it.
They take the call.
Yep.
Yeah. So and they go through and they hear a lot. And one thing people don't understand or realize about dispatchers is that they don't get the closure that first responders on scene do. A lot of times, as soon as a police officer or firefighter shows up, the person who calls in hangs up.
Yep.
Oh, damn.
And so, that's a whole other dynamic. And dispatchers are, they're the angels out there guiding. So we want to definitely make sure to
love it.
So where can people get more information on Healthy Hire, Healthy Retire?
So our website is healthyhirehealthyretire.org. We're also on social media, Facebook, Instagram. It's same, Healthy Hire, Healthy Retire. You can find all the information on there, how to help support and donate. The study we're looking to do is going to be something very necessary for all the changes that need to take place. So we're going to be collecting data and making sure that we formulate the right solutions based on the result of that data. And so we haven't really done like a comprehensive or like a broad study that combines both physical and mental health. And so we want to show the strong correlation between the two. So
mental health is physical health,
correct,
and vice versa. You can't have one without the other.
Exactly.
For sure.
Even just teaching someone how to help themselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
Setting that up. Everybody's different. Everybody takes out their stress in different ways. Giving them the ability and the knowledge to know what to do to alleviate it, because you can't always get somebody on the phone, and you can't always talk to somebody and sit down and talk to them. But
breathing techniques,
breathing,
all of that.
Boxing.
For
for somebody, it's a get on your bike and ride around the block 3 times. I mean, there's something for everybody that's going to relieve that stress, and making them aware of it could be a big, it's not all about just talking to a therapist.
Get out in nature. I mean, it's
going to bring it to their awareness.
Themselves.
Yes.
They have to learn to put themselves first.
At some point.
But they're conditioned not to.
Facts.
So that's the tough part with first responders. They're so conditioned to put themselves last, to really sacrifice their lives for others every single day. So we gotta make sure that we help to incorporate that again.
It's definitely not going to happen overnight. So I have a feeling we'll be seeing and hearing more from the both of you. If you guys have any first responders, any vets, whether they're retired and they want a platform to talk, please send them obviously our way. We're always here to celebrate anybody that mans the fuck up. You know what I'm saying? Now, speaking of that, we had to take care of like the business and the heavy part first, but let's get into this. I just hit my mic. Yeah. Sorry, Nestor.
Doing.
Sorry, producer. But you said I was
going
to do it at some point.
Well, that was only one out of like 30 minutes. So
that's pretty good.
We love to ask people, when they come by or just even when we're out, what does man the fuck up mean to you? Like when you see that, like obviously Stella, you're wearing the hat right now.
I love it.
So you love it. But so each of you can kind of tell us, what does man the fuck up mean to you?
Awesome. Thanks for asking. I really love the feeling of ownership, of knowing that I'm responsible for my bubble, my world, everything that I do ripples out into the people around me. So I take ownership on everything that I do when I interact with people, when I talk to people, and new, old, whatever. And being accountable is such a thing that I speak on so many times. My dad calls me a preacher. Because I'm like, I get on my pedestal about accountability because I was raised that way. If I damaged something, if I made a mistake, if I lied and got caught, I had to be like, yes, that was me. I did that, and like turned over and ready for my belt. And it would be no belts.
Lenny.
You get honesty, because you get honesty, you get off on that. And thank you for being accountable. Now you're grounded. But growing up through that, it was like constantly manning the fuck up on everything I ever did. And I realized how much more compassion I received from people, even though I might have made them mad or messed their stuff up, because I'm not perfect. It was like easier to process through the situation and make a better plan because I owned it. So that's what man the fuck up means to me. It isn't specific to a gender, it's specific to the situation and how you're going to handle yourself.
Can you just say that one more time, please?
Well, it's recorded, so.
It isn't specific to what?
The gender.
It's specific to the
situation. Come on. Manning the fuck up is not being a man or a woman. It's about ownership, owning your stuff, being realistic, being accountable, and like doing it, being true and honest, and like just, moral compass, people. Let's get it on point here.
Yeah, let's not try and figure out some kind of oddball thing why it happened. If you touch this and it breaks, you broke it. It's not the bottle's fault.
That was defective plastic. Something happened at the factory. They just didn't make it right.
Look, it's just live up to it. I have a 13-year-old, and
It's a white supremacist bottle, guys.
We've called him Bam Bam since he was like 2 years old. He's broken TVs. He's broken friends' TVs. He's broken, and it was never his fault. But now it's like, hey, you want to break something? Give it to Joey. So, but that and it's hard. It's because a lot of today's things that they're telling our kids that we have no control over, minus taking their phone away, or but you still don't have full control. Leads them to believe that there's a reason that this happened, that this got broken, and it wasn't my fault. I just touched it. It was obviously going to break anyways. So that accountability is lacking, and it's because of the conditioning that our kids are getting.
But this is my question.
Pussification of America.
Chelsea, I obviously
what was your term for it? That's a good term too.
What?
For the pussification of America.
Oh, that people have vaginitis these days.
Vaginitis.
Okay.
Yes, vaginitis.
I want to come back to it, but to what the point that you're making about it being conditioning, and Stella talking about, Stella was conditioned in her house.
No, I feel
that started with her father and that militancy, that regiment, that that cracking of the the whip. Like, so when do we stop blaming it all? Like, it's almost like I feel like sometimes our parents are also doing the same things the kids are doing. Don't leave the raising of your children to the internet, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's still you're raising your children.
This is our future,
right?
These are our people.
So you can't blame where they're falling short on everybody else without at some point.
It's all my fault.
Pointing that back at yourself. No, am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. And parents don't take that responsibility. They defending your child is one thing. Believing that your child never does anything wrong is stupidity. Okay? Because they're kids.
That's another shirt.
That's their whole
That's a shirt right there, Lenny.
Their whole entire life. They're going to make mistakes. That's the whole point.
Right.
If you don't let them make mistakes and you don't correct those mistakes, then, your kid's wrong.
It's how to man the fuck up.
It's how to man the fuck up.
And move forward from it.
Yeah.
Without any pride, without any ego, without anything being destroyed, because it's not about that. It's about learning from the experience, ownership of the experience, and how can we make it better? How do we move forward with now this understanding that Bam Bam is going to break stuff all the time. So we're going to talk to Bam Bam about how to be very cautious in certain areas, because, darling, we don't want you breaking stuff up and then, having this weird exchange of experience.
I still, on the daily, because he's the one boy I have that's very mechanical. My oldest is not super mechanical. My friends have made fun of him because he couldn't change a tire at 21 years old. And his dad's a car guy who...
It's time to man the fuck up, Nick. Learn how to change a tire, buddy.
It is what it is. But my youngest will literally build stuff. Like, he can build an IKEA cabinet by himself at 11 years old.
Which is saying something, because
Can I get his number?
I was going to say, IKEA has been the downfall of many a relationship.
Both my...
When a woman realizes her dude cannot build shit.
And IKEA...
Get out!
Listen, we moved into a new house in March, and both my daughter and my son built all their own IKEA furniture.
I love it.
We didn't even.
impressive.
They did it all. And I did have to go in when they're like, "Oh, this doesn't fit," and I'm like, "Oh, well, you have this backwards, whatever." But my youngest will tend to over tighten things, just because he doesn't.
Torque. That's torque, baby.
He doesn't have. He
Are we
doesn't
talking about
have
cars
that
now?
sensitivity.
So
we can
ready.
talk
Can
about
we talk
cars.
about torque?
She's
Yes.
so ready. Hold on, I want to just get
Talk about that
Chelsea's-
feeling.
Sorry.
Chelsea, what does man the fuck up mean to you?
So, like Stella, I don't believe that it has a gender
Okay.
associated with it. I mean, we're all human. I'm happy being a woman.
Yes.
Just
Whoa,
fine with that.
man.
And and I think that it does have a lot to do with accountability and just knowing when to kind of pull up your bootstraps and get get over it.
Get it done.
Get it done. Not get over it, but get it done. People struggle a lot with all sorts of things these days. And for me, I know it's been a lot with business and being a woman in business and trying to, establish yourself
In a man's industry.
Yeah.
yeah,
Whoa, whoa,
establish yourself there. And honestly, I have a book at home called Man Up, and I bought it because I wanted that perspective, and I wanted to see how I can, how I can really improve on that and having my confidence. and all of those sorts of things. So I think Man Up is, it for me, it stands for a lot of different things, but just really like pushing through and keep going. Just keep going.
And that's such a great
Fortitude.
word. Like pushing, like accountability, pushing through, bossing up, getting it done, handle your business. Like,
well, it's all about determination, right? Focus and making a plan and not just talking, but doing. So, Man the Fuck Up could really like fall into so many different categories, and inspiring people to know that it's okay to aspire for things, whatever that may be, a better position, an experience, forgiveness. You know, letting things go that are just dragging you down. Let that shit go. Man up and let it go. It's okay, so that you can move forward gracefully and consciously and happily and make better decisions in your life that improve your life. And then the people around you are going to see that. And all of a sudden, it's that ripple effect. It goes out, hits everybody. And then other people that you know and love are like, okay, what are they doing? What is she doing?
Like, I'm Man
Lenny,
the
you
Fuck
got
Up.
the world Man
You
the
should
Fuck
Man the
Up.
Fuck Up too.
It's a ripple effect. Let's do it.
Lenny just wanted to help dudes with their testosterone.
Oh, sorry.
No, it was
No, you know,
Well, that's what
I
happens
really-
when you bring
I
Stella
really
and
believe
Sea-Dazzle
it.
in the room.
Yeah. Sea-Dazzle. I really believe it. It goes to that story that I told you where I get orange juice every morning. I pull in, you know, my truck says Man the Fuck Up on the side of it. It's a white Raptor with Man the Fuck Up on the side.
Woo, Raptor.
So I pull in to get my orange juice, and I'm walking up, and I see this little girl about 10 years old with her mom. You know, mom's in her little yoga outfit. They're getting a juice. It's 8 a.m. So the mom, like, catches my eye and says, my daughter, right, wants to tell you something. Or you said, my daughter wants to know why you don't have a woman the fuck up. Now, this is like a 10-year-old. So she obviously identified what the truck said with what the truck said. And I'm like, oh, I'll look into that. But it's, you know, the mom was very friendly and very nice about it. And the 10-year-old had it. And it was nice to see that because, you know, people look at it and they go, what the, you know.
Well, it obviously resonated with her too. Like she got, like you said, to your point, she knew exactly. And that's why it has nothing to do with gender.
No.
When you see it, it should inspire something inside of you, right? Like it should make you go,
huh.
Am I manning the fuck up? Am I getting it done? Yeah. Am I handling my shit? Like, and that's what it is when I see it. But in 2021, you already know somebody's gonna.
But it's funny, the ones who focus on the fact that it's gender specific that don't believe in genders, right?
Oh gosh.
Yes.
Well,
that's a whole other
yes.
You know, a whole another one.
Sorry, I
like what Chelsea said earlier when we were talking about what it meant to us. Man, the word man really does represent mankind.
Yeah.
And we are humans. So we are women. I mean, the word man is used interchangeably in all these words that respectfully represent all of us as a species, as our humankind. So if anyone ever asked me that question, where's the woman? I would say, well, there isn't one or the other because man stands for mankind. So it's all of us.
Well, and it's kind of one of those things that goes back to like when you talk about feminism, right? It's like, if you really want to be equal, you have to stop identifying.
Yeah.
Right?
Dividing.
Like it's going to take a very long time for us to get to that place. Like let's be very clear about it. And that has whether it's race, sexuality, like it's going to take us a while for people to not see all of these things.
We're actually different, men and women.
Yes, we have different parts.
So it's, you know, there's always going to be that difference.
There is, but to Chelsea's point in business, right? It doesn't matter what gender your CEO is. Can they get the job done?
Right.
Can they boss up? Can they lead people? We may lead differently. We may have different styles. But at the end of the day, I guarantee you we can both be equally productive, right? Like that's...
Absolutely.
And it shouldn't matter. Like if I see the name, you know, if I see Teddy whatever, Teddy Davenport, Teddy could be a female. You know what I'm saying? Like when I see CEO,
it shouldn't matter, but, you know, it does in today's day and age still. You know, it's harder for women to get to that
100%.
top tier. And you know, this is all stuff. And I think if you look at where it started and where it's come to, it's gone leaps and bounds.
Facts.
People are trying to push agendas overnight that are not going to happen.
We couldn't
But
vote 100 years ago.
No.
Women couldn't vote 100 years ago.
There's CEOs of Fortune 500 companies now that are women.
Sheryl Sandberg.
Yeah.
Who's
So
from,
yeah, across the street. She
Right.
lived across the street. But she went to school with my wife. So the progress is happening. It's happening. And those
women.
And I also believe those limits exist if you believe they do.
absolutely.
Facts.
So
Yeah.
you know, it's all how much you're willing to try and keep going, and like I said, try to break those barriers.
I know it's more difficult for women, for people of color, but the bottom line is it's your choice to do what you want to do. That's why we love this country. It's our choice, and you can do it. And
Find a way around.
Yeah, you
And
can
trust
do
me,
it.
I've been
Make
there,
it
and
happen.
I'm sure that you guys have been there too. I'm sure you've been in a situation where where
You
men
told no,
try to
or hold you back.
But I'm still here.
Yep.
I'm still
My
here.
whole
You make your own way.
Exactly.
Everything
Those
I've
We're
limits
ever
are
resourceful.
Yep.
We are. Women know how to
That
man the
wasn't-
fuck up better than a lot of men. That's all I'm gonna say. That.
We forced you to.
Lenny,
Yeah.
We
thank you.
forced you
Oh,
to.
thank you.
It's
Thank you
true.
for years of misogyny and the rest of it. We appreciate it. It made us better.
Sorry. Okay.
Oh.
Can you give me a cup of coffee now,
That's what
please?
I'm saying, yeah.
You're outnumbered.
No, Lenny. No, Lenny. That's what Uber Eats is for, baby. Just use your phone.
Yes.
I don't have to get your coffee. You can do it for you
It
yourself.
feels so good to not
Order
be
me
the
one while
only
you're at
one
it.
in here right now.
You're outnumbered. Your face is getting red.
No, but,
What are you gonna do?
but speaking of what you're talking about, Stella, we met you, again at a car rally, and this isn't Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift.
No.
We're talking about there were hundreds of millions of dollars worth of cars. This is the creme de la creme. These are supercars. These are, $500,000 vehicles at minimum. And this is what you do. This is your squad. This is your crew. But you were one of the only women. There were if there were 40 dudes, 50 dudes driving, there were 3 women there.
Right.
And, this seems to be something that you're genuinely passionate about.
Definitely.
Like, what is it like being a female in this predominantly and primarily male, and not just any men? Like, let's be clear.
This is the loudest pounding chest. The loudest pounding
right,
chest.
I mean, this is
Okay.
a lot of money.
Yeah.
Point is
Yeah.
this is that next level.
I
machismo.
love it. No, I love it. You have to understand, I have been involved my whole life in industries and businesses where I've been the only woman in the room. I've developed companies and been around the big guys that just want to back over me and run over me and push me to the side. And I gotta love my father for this, because when I would call him up in tears and be like, Daddy, I don't know what to do. And basically he would tell me to man the fuck up, but he would say it to me like this: you're either gonna be a big dog or you're gonna sit on the porch. So which one do you want, Stella? Do you want to be out there running with the big dogs in the pack, or are you going to be on the porch and stop crying about it, right? So even if you're not on the porch and you're running with them and you're in the back, you're still running with them. Figure it out. Be smart. Be quiet. Be sharp. Get involved. So being in this world with all of these guys and not having a lot of women around. There are some women that are in it, which is really exciting when I get to meet other girls and want to get on the track and do some of the stuff that I love to do. But ultimately, it's like a whole world of experiences and conversations. It's like being a fly on the wall, And because I don't come at it with any other approach other than I'm going to beat you on the track. Please try and beat my time. Or when we rally and go do cool stuff like Tail of the Dragon, I'm not going to use my brakes. You're not going to smell my brakes at the end of these 300 and whatever turns in 11 miles, because I know how to use my paddles, baby. It's all about that, RPM and the paddles.
Yeah, you're going to smell clutch.
Yeah. No PDKs, no clutch. It's like so different. It's a whole new world. I grew up with a clutch. Most people don't know how to work a clutch anymore. If there's that extra pedal down there, it's like,
What is that?
what is that for?
Does that pop?
That's
the
for
gas?
That's the
burnout.
injection.
Is that why isn't the gas tank opening? I don't understand.
So I've come at it with a very considerate approach, and I talk shop, and I don't talk a lot, but I'm there. I'm a happy energy. Like when I see cars, I feel like most girls do with Prada and Chanel. When I see cars, I'm like, oh. how fast can it go? How many horsepower and torque? La, 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 la. What have you done to modify it? Like, what was your last time on the track? Where have you been? Whatever. So I think I catch people off guard. And then all of a sudden, when we have a bit of conversation, it's like, again, it's not a gender thing. It becomes a car thing. I am part of that environment, that energy, that enjoyment. You know, that's the outlet. And so it's been beautiful because through it, I've met a lot of beautiful women and girlfriends and wives and even kids on some of the rallies I go on where they bring their family and they throw it in their Cullinan, you know. They're rolling deep in their $500,000 Rolls Royce going 150 with their 10-year-old and their 6-year-old on their iPad in the back. And when we get to the next destination, it's just all a big family. So it's really become such a beautiful thing. I even throw my parents in the back and take them.
Okay.
You know, we went to Sebring a couple of months ago and did, you know, it was my first time on Sebring in my car, and it was just such a great experience. You know, we'll be going to Daytona soon, taking my parents to Daytona. So, you know, McLarens will be there, lots of AMG Mercedes will be there. It's like, it's just my world. Like I said, it's gorgeous to me. You know, speed, adrenaline, camaraderie, conversation. And the beautiful thing is that everybody's in there lifting each other up. Nobody's pushing each other down. And the clowns that come around that think they can do that and be bossy and bullies, they don't last. They actually, like a splinter, they work themselves out of the where they think they stuck in. Eventually it gets worked out and everyone keeps moving. The splinter stays behind. So
I mean, I think that's on a regular basis. You have people trying to, you know, it's like any group of people, surfers, you know, you remember the back in the day, you know, you can't go surf there. That's a local
that's
spot.
just for the locals.
That's just for the locals. You can't, you know, you got to go out there, get your butt whooped a little and, you know, prove to them that you're real and legit. And, you know, I think in this group, from what I've seen, because I've only been hanging out with Floyd and these guys for a couple of years, maybe 2 years, but people come and, you know, it's like, you don't look like you belong here. And it's not even looks. It's just, you know, it happens. So
The
people
guy that
get,
crashed his car.
you know,
Sorry.
huh?
Well, you got you got mentality,
What happened?
you got personality,
That
you've
hurt.
got
Yeah.
agendas. You know, it's another thing about what's really crazy with our society is like this hidden agenda, kind of duplicity, two-faced kind of motions, right? I'm not coming into the car world because I'm looking for a guy who's got cars.
Or IG posts.
Most guys can't
love
get.
it.
I can take care of myself. If there's a man that can give me more than I got, brother, I'm happy to meet you. But otherwise, you know, I'm rolling all by myself, doing exactly what I need to do, and I'm in a group of people that lift me up, that empower me. That when I say, all right, I want to get this car for the track, I've got 3 or 4 guys in my group that are like, Stella, get this one, look at that one. They take me to go test drive it. You know, like I've got support, I've got love, I've got just this camaraderie that I'm mind blown that exists in today's society. So I feel so blessed. I'm just so overwhelmed.
Did you just automatically get it, or did you have to earn it?
I don't know. It just happened. I think when you look, I believe in being yourself all the time.
Yeah.
Some people are going to like me and some people are not going to like me, and that's okay. You know, so you can choose whatever side of the fence you're on. I can't handle anybody else's reality but my own, but I am steadfast to what makes me function as a good human being. And so when I got into the cars, it took me 10 years to buy an exotic because honestly, I was like, I could do so much more with that money. La, 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 la. Do I really need it? And then one day I was just like, my mom was like, I am tired of this conversation. Please go buy the car. And I'm like, get it. Okay.
Well, did you do anything better with it at that point? You know what I mean? If you've now spent 10 years doing it, it's like, and this is going to bring you
So
true
exactly.
joy.
So I finally got to that point where, all right, this was a transition. It was a point for me to step up, man up, and do this thing for myself. And so I did. And when I did, it was wild how all these doors opened up because now my mentality, my brain shifted to, I got to find some peeps that are got this like-minded kind of situation going on. How do I get around my like-minded kind of people? And then boom, 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 boom. And so, yeah, in the beginning, the first guy that I ever reached out to, he's like, well, we don't just let anybody in here. And he's like, are you sure you drive a car or are you sitting co-pilot? I'm like, bitch, please. I'm driving a car. I'm like, no. And so then he starts dropping all these things about cars and whatever. And I'm like, are you vetting me? He's like, yeah.
Yes.
I'm like, all right, well, let's go. I said, do you want to meet like on 441 at 1 a.m. and see who can go the fastest? Like, let's do that next. So he laughed at me and he's like, all right, come to this event. Come in, we'll see how it goes from there. I was like, okay, Dad, thanks. And so I did. And then from there, obviously, other things unfolded and other people and other doors. And so, you know, the community is pretty amazing, and all the things that they do for their community as well. It's not just about, hey, look at me and look at this and look at my car and da-da and vroom vroom and whatever. But all these people, a lot of them that I've met, they give back. They love one another. They support one another. They're out there for one another. And I think that's what our world needs more and more and more.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I wanted to hear like a douchebag story.
I'm sorry.
There's plenty of douchebags.
know.
We'll have plenty of douchebags.
How
But,
much
you know,
time
that's a
do we
perfect that's a perfect man the fuck up story.
Yeah.
She wanted something and she went and got it, and she's a woman.
Yeah.
I was going to say girl, but
Well, I'm glad.
yeah.
Say it again.
I still like girl, but, you know,
What's up, girl?
a girl refers to a younger woman.
Yeah. She's
You know.
She's a grown ass.
Grown ass girl.
She's a woman.
Lenny's got a phone call. You were talking about dating, though. Like,
Yeah.
you were like, you're not in it, obviously, and if somebody can.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to tell somebody you were dealing with or in a relationship with to man the fuck up?
Oh, God, yeah. Many times.
So give me an example.
Well, I had a construction company for like 17 years. And so at the time, my husband thought, when I wanted to go into it, I was married. I was in my 20s. And I said, I wanted to do this because I see this huge gap. And I'm like, baby, you know, I want to do this because I think I can crush it. And I had this really awesome job. And he's like, you're ridiculous for walking away from this really awesome, easy peasy kind of job, making good money at the time, which really wasn't. But we were young, so we thought we were crushing it, right? And I had this random person say to me, like an angel, you need to do what you need to do because you're not doing you. I know this. He gave me this really great pep talk. I didn't know him, and out of my life he went. And from that, I started my business. So I ended up, I think, emasculating my husband because I didn't follow the flow. I wasn't the good wife that said, okay, honey, I'll just continue to do this. I said, hell no, I want to do this, babe. So I did it, I built it, and then I had a whole company of men working underneath me that logistically I had to every day tell them, if you don't follow my lead, there's the door. There's 700 million more of you out there. And the right ones that come along and do what I tell them to do will not only be successful, but be full of gratitude, have a better life. I'll make sure their home lives are good because I'm not trying to work you like dogs. I'm trying to work you like warriors. We're going to get it done. We're going to knock it out. We're going to have our weekends off. And we used to have these things called Fuck It Fridays. Like when everything went left, right, and center and it just wasn't coming together, I would just pull the plug and be like, go home. That's it. Fuck it. This is not happening anymore. You know, we're going to regroup, take the weekend off. And I would call all my clients and be like, I'm sorry, but we're broken and busted right now. We cannot provide and produce the quality of work that you deserve that I said you would get from me. And so if you would just give me these 2 days to download, reboot, come back Monday, knock it out. And that's how I mean, so in that case, yes, a lot of the times it was dealing with men where they wanted to fight with me. I don't want to fight. And they didn't like taking instructions from me, but dude, I signed your paycheck, so you have to listen to me. This is my game. You know, you're a pawn in it. So if you do what I tell you to do, you're going to end up at a higher category. You're going to see the results. But just trust me. And once you start trusting me, we get into this process and you're doing it so badass. Now you can tell me how you want to do it because you're in charge of your part of this thing.
To be,
yes.
Yeah.
So I crushed it. Eventually I got divorced because my husband couldn't take it.
That's okay. You know, I'm a GC too.
Oh,
And I, you know, to your point, you know, a lot of these.
That's general contractor, right?
That's
What's a good?
I'm a licensed Florida general
not
contractor.
everybody tuning in and watching the ManTFup podcast know what that is, so we're educating.
Excuse me, sorry,
Education.
general contractor. But yeah, a lot of these people that work for us in that industry have a lot of issues, especially with women.
Yeah.
Especially with women. And I actually had some women who worked, as subs for me that were very good.
We just seem to have this like knack for management and delegation.
It's practical.
It's practical. It's logical. And the idea is if we know what the end result is, we are going to work towards that because ultimately our spirits are pure and we want to gain. We want to grow. We want good. We're not trying to do things for evil and for, there's evil people out there, no doubt. But ultimately, when you're in a position where you have the opportunity to do good, that's what we want to do.
You know what I love, though, about Stella right now? Like cars, construction, like you immerse yourself in these, historically male-dominated fields, genres, but you bring your femininity to it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so you can run with the big dogs, but there's nothing overtly masculine about you. So to women out there, we don't have to sacrifice one for the other.
And I think that's what a lot of ways we related. I used to install car stereos at Circuit City.
Okay.
Circuit City, that's dating you.
I know. And then I went on and I designed commercial AV systems for a company for a while too. So we've been like a lot in I don't know, we've just been in male.
Before you leave today, can you hook that up for me?
Do you have a rock back here?
Yeah.
No, but but I love that, and it's kind of like, I think, Lenny, when we set out to do this, it was one of those things where it's like you're blowing up, I think, stereotypes to some situation by proving that where they do exist for a reason, there's still plenty of room to demolish. You know what I'm saying?
We're creating a cohesive kind of situation where it's not whether you're a man or a woman, but it's like you're really good at one thing, she's really good at this, and combined, we're like ballers.
When you can meet in the middle, look at the greatness.
Hey, there it is.
That's really what
there it is.
About, and sometimes bringing that energy into it. But I just, I love that.
A lot of this has to be about, and I was thinking about this last night, about stop crying about, if these people put half the energy that they put into whining about the problem, men are dominating, and if they put in half the energy that they
or women are coming for our shit,
half the energy, if they put half the energy into something productive, they wouldn't be concerned about that anymore,
right?
Because they would get what they want.
Well, and to my point, like, Stella, you don't look like Roseanne.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you can be a woman, you can be a general contractor, you can be a boss, and still be a woman.
What's wrong with Roseanne? Are you body shaming Roseanne?
No. She is a boss babe.
Yes,
I'm
a boss babe, and as are you. Like, here you are out here, and again, you're a businesswoman, but then you also have this nonprofit, and you're like the CEO and the founder of that, and you're dealing predominantly with very, macho, A-type men and women, but your job is to go in there and to get them to open up, to talk about what they need in order to really be their best selves. And that takes something special to be able to do, right? So it's incredible. Like you said, when we stop with the you're this and you're that, and and
it's like we have differences, like you said, but when we can really respect each other for those differences, that's where we get somewhere.
Yeah, and listen, I have stereotypes as a man. Okay,
sure.
When you see a woman at a car event, and this is not directed directly at
I'm
you,
excited.
But
to hear what
Kimmy will answer this for me. I'm like, oh yeah, her husband must be blown up.
Oh my God, that is so awesome.
This is a
so glad you said that.
This is a stereotype that you have.
They have that at a gas station. If you see a woman driving a beautiful
car,
so that's your man's car.
It's a stereotype, and it's ingrained in us. These things are ingrained in us as that kind of thing.
It's so funny. No, listen, I got to tell you real quick. I'm sorry. I got to tell you something really fast. The first day that I drove my my Audi, I got an R8 and Spiders, nice convertible. I was like, whew. I grabbed a bottle of wine and I'm driving up to my girlfriend's house. She's like, come over. I'm like, all right. So I'm driving up on a road and there's this car that just won't let me on these 2 lanes, won't let me in front and keep
bumper snot.
pinning me in, right?
Yeah,
I'm
bumper
like,
snotting you.
dude rolls down the window, like all stealth-like, right? So all I see are eyeballs staring at me, and I'm throwing my hands up like, could you just back up? Like, I just need 6 feet, bro, and then you can continue to go 30 for the rest of your life. I'm just trying to, like, open her up and get somewhere. So he backs up enough, and I pull, like, you know, I'm going to call myself a douchebag. I pulled a douchebag move. And I hit the throttle and zip through 2 cars like, fuck you, bye. And then guess what?
That's a great license.
Boom! All the lights on this dude's car come on. And he's undercover. Yeah, he was trying to warn me with this, like, super stealthy eyeballs only. Like, slow down, stupid. And I'm like, fuck you! Get out of my way! So he pulls me over. I'm like, son of a biscuit. So I pull off to the side. And he's furious. He comes walking over. He goes, what is your problem? And he's yelling at me. And I'm like, well, I don't have a problem. He goes, is this your husband's car? I'm like, no. He goes, is this your boyfriend's car? I'm like, why's it got to be a man's car?
Purple, and they still think it.
So we're yelling at each other now. And he's like, where are you going? Are you drunk? And I grab the bottle of wine out of the seat next to me. I'm like, nope, on my way. So to your point earlier, like, it's not common, and for those of us ladies out there that are rally savvy, that love the throttle, that, you know, need the adrenaline, that feel the rush of that, like, gorgeousness when you can just hear all those, like, the engine and the popping and the locking and the woo, that kind of stuff, like, I love it. Like, you divas out there, keep rolling, keep going.
So there's another story, but it wasn't husband or boyfriend, it was daddy's car.
Oh, daddy.
So I have a Jaguar F-Pace, and I was parked on the avenue, and I was getting back to my car. It was nighttime, and some kid and his girlfriend were leaning on my car, just making out, and I was like, excuse me, could you guys get off my car so I can leave? And he was like, oh, sorry, we were leaning on daddy's car. And I was like, no.
Again, stereotype.
Yeah.
But
it's mine.
I'm going to need a little, you know, self-defense here. You women, in general,
all three of us,
all three of you,
to anybody who's
have some.
Lenny did the arm sweep.
Yes,
the arm sweep.
All of
you
women in general have preconceived notions about men also.
For sure,
absolutely.
Like, you know, so when
like
you
all those guys in those really expensive cars probably have little dicks. That's just
you know, these are all preconceived notions.
I thought that was just for guys with big trucks.
I
thought it was jacked up trucks, not supercars.
I think anything supercars, big trucks, you know,
anything that makes you look grander than you are.
Well, and when we see older men walking around with younger girls, we now automatically assume it's your girlfriend or
not your dad.
Not your dad. Not your dad.
Yes. But no, I'll take it one step further. We paint a whole picture. Like, he left his original wife of 30 years after the kids went to college, moved to South Florida, found himself a 28-year-old somewhere, probably on Fort Lauderdale.
And he bought her a supercar.
And he bought her on Tinder. Exactly.
See, I'm too old for that to happen. That sucks.
But you know what I was going to say, too, as women in that space, though, I think it's kind of funny because you start to wonder as people are looking at you, are they looking at me? Or are they looking at the fucking car? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
I hope they're looking at the car because the car's gorgeous.
But you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, I think as a woman, it makes you laugh because when you're driving around in a Honda Civic, they're looking at you. You know what I'm saying? Unless it's, again, a Tokyo Drift Honda Civic, and then who knows? They could be looking at the car too. But when you roll up in in a McLaren and them doors pop up, it's like all the gawking. You could be as beautiful as they come, but
yeah, excuse me, honey. Can you move so I can see the car?
It's better so I can take a picture. Can you back away for a second? I would like to take a selfie with your vehicle.
I have had women approach me in parking lots of Publix when I'm driving. I had these 2 older ladies, massively older. I'm like, I don't even know how they're walking around. And she's like, "Can we sit in your car?" And I looked at her and I said, of course. But
you have your Depends on?
Get out of the car. Can I help you when it's time to? And the lady's like, yes. So I'm like, okay. So you're like, I'm with my mom. Sometimes we're out on rallies and little kids. And it's just like, to me, there's that component of like, if I can put a smile on somebody's face, that just makes me feel amazing.
Lenny, didn't even, I don't think, intend to be out here doing like girl power stuff with Man the Fuck Up. Just having Stella on talking about this is representation. So there's going to be a female who's going to either watch this on YouTube or listening to this podcast and is going to be like, you know what? I'm not by myself. I'm going to boss up. I'm going to man the fuck up. I'm going to head to the track. I'm going to get to know some people and I'm going to pursue this passion of mine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and sometimes all it takes is seeing one female doing what you think you might want to do to push your, you know what I mean? To push yourself or to step through or to, you know, inspire that
encouragement.
Yep.
Boom. What movie was that from?
I don't know, but I love it. And I think that
I think so.
the two of you had a moment in talking about, you know, I think you were talking about it with gender. You know, you were like, yes, there are innate differences in us, but when we can still find a common ground or we can respect each other. And that goes to your point, Lenny, even with conversations and finding our way back to the middle. Lenny and I scream at each other. Nestor, the producer, can attest to this. At least 3 times a week. We have a conversation.
She has made the veins pop out of my
We
neck.
have no business.
At least you know they're still there.
You know, many of our sensitive, politically correct conversations, right? That lesser people would maybe never speak to each other again, right? And literally, we stop, and the next thing we know, we're talking about matchy outfits, right? So like we're 180 full throttle on the Autobahn going at it over whatever. And the conversation ends. I have the utmost respect for Len.
Right.
And, you know, we'll either say I agree to disagree.
That's called the
Thank
finish
you.
line.
I don't know why.
That's called the finish line. You guys get to the finish line and you still salute each other, high five each other.
But you're better off
going.
for it. Because if you don't understand what you're up against, if you don't take the time to hear other people out, we will never make the changes that we want to see. We will never grow. We will never evolve. Like if you stay in your silo of like-mindedness always and forever, you know what I mean? That's all you're ever going to see. And you'll never, ever, ever understand where the other side is coming from.
Yeah, and I think it just boils down to really just respect. At the end of the day. Because once that starts to erode, then
And listen, as a man, again, because I'm outnumbered today, guys.
Hey, love
I need help here.
No,
but I welcome the stereotyping. I welcome it. I welcome you guys to have a preconceived notion about me. Because then when I open my mouth or do something, it totally shatters it.
Yeah.
And I think women should have that same thing. They shouldn't be offended that men think, hey, why aren't you home doing the fucking laundry? They shouldn't think that. They should just shatter it.
Right.
And I think that these ladies have sat
absolutely.
on the Man the Fuck Up
Absolutely.
podcast and done exactly that.
Absolutely. But, you know, there's 330 other million people in this country that we need to convince.
Listen to us.
Women and men.
One episode at a time.
I was just
one
going to say
episode at a time. But one episode at a time. But before we let you get out of here, Lenny, I think this is a great way to end it because these women will be completely honest. The term bitches. The term bitch. Can we talk about this for a second?
Bitches.
Nestor, don't look at me like that. Are we offended by the term bitches? Is it time for us to hang up bitches? You know, we like to cancel, you know, every year a new word gets canceled. Okay. Like, if you hear a group of gentlemen like, oh my God, those some bad bitches. Like, are we offended by, like, talk to me. If I say bitches, are you...
For me, it's just always been the way it's used. Like, if I'm fighting with someone, if I'm in a relationship and someone calls me a bitch,
like you're such a bitch.
We don't, no.
But have you ever had somebody say you're acting like a bitch and you're like, don't call me a bitch, and they're like, I didn't call you a bitch.
With you, I think there is a difference. Don't call me a bitch.
Context.
But I can,
Context.
I 100%, I own that shit. I've acted like a bitch before, and I don't really care. Like, I'll be like, hey, you know,
she's
hey,
kinda,
bitch,
hey, bitch,
like, yes,
don't care.
She's kind of using it as a
offended by things like that.
When she first came on, she's like, "What are you gonna have on the podcast?" I'm like, "It's gonna be about health, motorsports, and bitches."
If you look, I erased it.
You erased it?
Motorsports, I said to Nestor,
you erased it?
I did. I took it down.
It's.
I don't know. I just don't get offended that easily by that sort of stuff.
I mean, it's not directed at you or you. It's just, it's a term that men use with each other, or, you know, this is a very male-dominated office.
Yes.
And I think, okay, listen, I think that we should all be able to express ourselves in our own ways. And again, no one is held responsible for like, I can't be held responsible for how you feel about how I feel about something, right? So if I'm coming at it in a way where it's like disrespectful or rude or whatever, I can see where that can be a problem. And yeah, you should shift the dynamic so that it isn't in a mean way or derogatory way. But I think it's funny because dudes and bitches or whatever, you know, there's a vernacular that exists that should be allowable to be in the conversation. So when it comes to bitches, like, I stopped using that term because I felt like within my girl circle, within my ladies, I liked babes better, right? Because it has like a happier kind of uplifting sense to it where you can still be a bitchy babe. You know, you can be a boss babe. You can be a badass babe. You can do all kinds of things with a babe. And when I stopped using the word bitch, I realized that there was a shift inside of me, even with my girls. Because before it was like, bitch, please. You know, and then bitch this and bitch that. And then, okay, no. I'm not going to say that anymore.
Well, it's energy. And it's manifestation and it's what you put behind it. So you can make a conscious choice. Does that mean that you're offended anytime you hear it? And no. Lenny, I'm not offended anytime I hear it. And Lenny knows
I know that.
I'm around guys all the time.
I was going to say, and don't act like when you're leaving people in the dust, you're not like,
bye, bitch.
Actually, yes. I've actually called a lot of men bitches. So
exactly.
Whatever, bitch. I'm out.
But that's the other thing. When you call a dude a bitch, they get offended as right? Like if you're like, yo, stop acting like a bitch.
Yeah.
Right?
And the fuck up.
Add little to it and it's
like
don't
be a little bitch.
Little in front of anything is the most condescending thing. Oh, you and your little car.
Yeah.
He puts up with his little car and his little suit.
$750,000 McLaren little car.
But no, I think that's just going to be something that I ask everybody across the board because I think
such a good question.
Again, it goes back to even what you were saying. We cannot be held accountable, Lenny. I think this is something you talk about all the time, for how somebody takes and processes whatever we're saying. And we've gotten to this place now where we're being encouraged to prioritize how someone else may or may not hear and process what you're saying before you say it, right?
Like, and that's as long as you're not coming from a bad place with it, you can't expect that. But if there's some, you know what I mean? Like, I don't.
Well, and there's ownership. Like, we own it. Like when we I don't turn. If I hear somebody say, "Hey, bitch," I don't turn around. You cannot possibly be talking to me. But if it's like, "Hey, bitch," like if it's my girls, like we own that word, right? We have ownership over
I always turn around when a guy whistles. I want to see who's doing the whistling.
Listen, I have a straight up disclaimer. We've had young intern girls here. We've had, I have a girl that works for me, and I'm straightforward. Look, there's no HR department. I tell people straight up, you're going to hear and see things in this office that are offensive to almost anyone. Okay? Anyone.
Yep.
I don't care who you are, you're not above reproach from stuff in this office because this is a marketing company and we're marketing products and, sexuality, this, weight, I don't care what it is. Gender, you're gonna hear shit come out of my mouth and other people's that's gonna be offensive.
Yeah.
You clearly have to know it's not directed at you. No one's ever gonna look at you and say something specific about you, but you're gonna hear it. And if you can't handle it, this isn't the place for you. And I'm fine with that. But I lay it out there because, I'm not. And today when people are, I'm going to sue him because he said this or he said this about a woman and I took offense to it. No. You came in this office. You were told what it's about. It's like you go to a strip club and he made me get naked. It's just not, it's not
feasible.
It's not feasible. Yeah. And it goes right to that.
I think you just wrote the disclaimer for the show, by the way. So we're gonna have to go back and really listen and script that out. Like, listen, that could offend almost anybody, and I think that's even what Man the Fuck Up. Well, that's why we asked because it could offend everyone, but it shouldn't offend
anyone.
Yeah, right. So it's all in how you approach it. But you ladies have been absolutely incredible. Lenny, for the time being, I guess bitches can stay on the board.
Yes, to the bitches.
Hey.
Can we come up with a word like that for men? Can we come up with our own? Like when we say, like, they'll say, oh, we're going out looking for some bitches tonight. What do we say? We don't even say that. Like, we just need a word. So I just need the ladies to put their thinking caps on.
That's interesting.
Well, if you're going out looking for guys, I'm sure you have a word.
No, we don't. Like,
if you're specifically going out to
I'm going out looking
look
for dick.
guys.
I don't think.
I don't know.
I don't.
Vitamin D.
That's something different.
Can we say vitamin D?
No, but like,
I'm deficient in my vitamin D. Let's go out. We need to go get some supplements.
That's a whole other podcast right there.
Is this the Man the Fuck Up supplement line? I need some vitamin D.
Women's formula.
Brought to you by
Vitamin D.
Vitamin D.
That's our new. All right.
Oh well, super great to be here today. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you guys
has been
so much
awesome.
for having us on.
Thanks. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm glad you guys came. And we're gonna do whatever we need to support you guys.
Thank you.
Whatever
Healthy
your
hire,
events are,
healthy retire.
We'll get it out. We'll get it out. We'll be there.
Perfect.
We're there for you guys.
Love
Thank
it.
you.
Awesome.
StellaB Chelsea Davenport. We appreciate you, Lenny.
Lenny, boss man. I love you. Love you, baby.
It's the Man the Fuck Up podcast. Make sure you check us out. Spotify.
How
Apple,
can you not?
Google. Where else are we, Lenny?
Spotify, Apple, Google, YouTube, LinkedIn.
Man the Fuck Up. ManTFupTV.com. Right?
ManTFupTV.com. Or you can also email KimmyB@ManTFupTV.com.
I was giving out my email address at the end of every.
Blow it up already. Creeps, I know you're out there.
All right, bitches, let's go get a snack.
All right. Snack time.